Hi, Renee. This is Lindsay. So excited to have you here. Thank you so much for your sweet comment. That's very nice of you. I'm glad to have you on here, and I've taken a look at your images already, and I love them. Excuse me. Okay, so this first shot, first let me just say this is so great out of camera right here. This is like practically perfect, and this is what you want. This is what I try to tell, any of my participants, that you want the best that you can out of camera, and this looks really, really good. I'm not I'm not totally seeing the color casts in here. I don't know if maybe it's, it could possibly be if your screen maybe needs to have another calibration or what, but I'm not seeing the casts very much here at all. So at least on my screen, I'm not. I think it looks pretty good. Like this, I really like this whole setup, and I love the way that you've brightened it up here. I think my only thing that I would tell you to do, since she's really the focus of the image, and I realize you're probably trying to get some of this stuff in with the shot, but I would just have cropped this in tighter, and maybe I would have maybe had these two girls sitting closer in, or moved her over here so that you had just a little bit of a tighter shot, because there's a few of them and you had to kind of go obviously a bit wider. I would have just tightened in a bit more, and personally, and I feel like it does make a more dynamic image when you've got any kind of limb cut off, and like just because her foot's kind of cut off right here, it sort of like cuts off the image, if that makes sense. And so either you cut it off quite a bit so that you're kind of chopping off, so that you're not getting something halfway, is what I'm saying. So if you'd kind of cut it here, then you could still kind of get, some of this other stuff, the drinks and the glass. But I'm assuming that this is the stuff that you're, this is the Vera Bradley stuff that you're trying to get. So that's the most important, really, in the whole setup. So I think I would have cropped about here, cropped here, and tightened her up here and pulled it in here. That way, it's just because like all this stuff you don't need, all this excess stuff out here you don't need. This is the focus of the image. So that's really my only critique on it, because I love the colors. I love how you've situated it. I mean, like I said, maybe you could have moved one of them over here. I don't know if it would have made a huge difference, but it could have helped with bringing the image in a little bit tighter. And the editing is great. And like I said, straight out of camera, looks really good, and no grain, which is good, especially because the ISO is a little bit higher. Okay, awesome job. So next image, love this. I love how bright it is. I want their house. I love this, and I know you said that you didn't want to get the ends of the camera, and that you wish the crop could have been maybe a little bit different. So when I'm in that kind of situation, when you're in a home situation and you're doing kind of some lifestyle shooting, and I'm sure you probably did this, but like if there are things that I can move, I have no problem asking them to move it, or asking if I can move it. Like if it was like a bunch of books or things like that, I'd been like, can we move this? Let's get rid of this. And, I don't like to stress out like my newborn moms. And so I try not to say things like, oh, get your house ready before I come. I don't want to like stress them out. But, so I just say, before I send it out, don't worry about anything. I'll move it if I need to. And, so if it was stuff that you could have moved, I would have done it. If you couldn't, which I'm assuming you couldn't, because that's why you shot it not in the frame. Again, this is another thing, like where I'm talking about cutting off just a piece. Like because you've got a piece of the couch cut off here, and this is nitpicky, but I try to give you all the details I can in my critiques. So, yeah, I probably would have tightened this in. I would have just cropped it in a little bit tighter, so that because you are cutting if you're cutting any kind of piece off, even if it's a smidge, you may as well get rid of part of it. It just has to do with the flow of the image. If I think this image would have been better if this would have been showing. you know, if you could have come back just a touch so that at least the end of the couch was showing. Especially because you've decided to have them on the right side of the image. You've decided to kind of keep them in the corner of the full of the image. We have to get like the whole perspective, if that makes sense. Otherwise, the couch becomes too much of the image. If that makes sense to you. Yeah, I think I would have pulled back a little bit, or like I said, cropped in tighter, moved it, you know, not got so much of the ceiling and the wall. I mean, this right up here, dead space. You don't even need that. I would have just cropped it in much closer, and I probably would have cloned this out as well. I would have gotten rid of that, because it's not necessary. You don't need it there. It's just a distracting element. It's a great image. Like, I love it. I love that he's looking at her face, and I love how her face is, and that they've got just the baby in there. It's just, I even love that she's got kind of her toes curled up here. It's great. I love the emotion in the image. So it's awesome. Just those little things, like, you know, sometimes we get so busy shooting a client that we just keep shooting instead of going, okay, hang on, let me just stop for a minute and reframe myself, so that you kind of step back, you really have a look. You know, no one's going to be weird with you, and you can take your time so that you can get the image right, you know, and try to look for these distracting elements, you know, these things that you know, aren't needed in your image. But yeah, it's a great shot. It's a great shot. I think you did a good job. Excuse me. Okay, I love this. I love this. I love the bit of sun flare and the backlight that you've got going on here. And again, it's really well exposed, really well edited. Again, it's just that cutting off right there of the limbs. I wouldn't want you to cut her off here. I mean, maybe you could have cut her from about here, and that would maybe salvage the image in the sense of the cutting off part. But part of this skirt, you know, is part of why it is pretty. You know, that she's kind of holding her dress up and walking through. But this is definite. Like, I love everything about this image except that her feet are cut off, and that I can kind of see part of her shoe, you know. Because, like, if you think about the image as a whole, you know, she's walking, we're seeing what she's doing, but yet her feet aren't in the image. It doesn't quite lend to the whole feel of what's happening in the photo. So again, just cutting things off and cropping things right. And I think if we had seen her feet in it, you know, and that you had a little bit of foreground in it with her feet, it would have been perfect. It's really sweet. Just a couple of side notes here. I definitely sort this out here. She's got quite a bit of hair here, and you know, the shadowing has made it look darker. And so I would have fixed that just a little bit, especially the hair here that you can see, and you know, in the backlight. Again, those are just, you know, aesthetic, cosmetic things. But they're things that I know when you're shooting either a senior or maternity or even a family session with a mom. You know, I was told a long time ago that you should always make mom look good, and so whenever I'm shooting women, I make sure that, you know, I enhance the qualities that they have, and you know, things like this that actually, you know, probably aren't that bad in person, but because of lighting or whatever have made it look a lot worse. Definitely something to get rid of it, because you know, you and I are going, oh, beautiful. It's not something that we would totally see, but she would notice that. She'd be like, oh my gosh, you can see all my arm hair. So it's just something to think about as well. But really love your images, Rennai. They're very, very good. I'm really looking forward to seeing your next 3 weeks. This is going to be great. So thanks so much, and have a good week too, and I will be chatting to you soon. All right, take care. Bye-bye.